to follow the crowd and gathered pace towards where our car was parked further up the town. And literally it started, hundreds, then thousands of people started running down all the streets away from the promenade. There's a big square that kind of where those roads lead to, and you could see, every single road along that square, people running across. And there was just panic, people picking up their kids and running with them, shops closing their doors. I managed to get to the car in the end, and when I drove off from the car park, there were police waving me through red traffic lights. It was pandemonium. At that time, we didn't quite know whether it was a false alarm, but as we've all found out, it wasn't.
When you hear the reports of at least 30, perhaps even 60 killed in this incident, it must completely send shivers up your spine, reinforcing how lucky you were to be where you were at that time.
Well, absolutely. You always think about it. Even when I was walking through the crowds of the fireworks, there were a lot of police there, armed and very vigilant. But you always know that people can get through that. When you're talking about thousands of people attending an event, and when you escape it, and it was as close as that, then yes, you think about it. I had been, for example, to the Bataclan several times before the incident happened in Paris, so I already had a slight, kind of distant connection to previous events, but this is something else. It brings it home. But obviously, it's more about the people that lost their lives tonight.
And obviously, we really appreciate you filling us in with what you've seen, James, and we can hear from your voice how understandably disturbed you are by the situation. Can you give us a sense of the atmosphere as it was before this happened? One can imagine people just enjoying themselves.
Oh, it was a fantastic fireworks display. There were so many people lining the promenade. I mean, you couldn't even get onto the beach. So the beach was packed, the promenade was packed. There were bands playing at every I'd say about 100 feet intervals. There were different bands, jazz, rock, heavy metal. It was a great atmosphere. And the fireworks, the centre of the fireworks were opposite the Office de Tourisme, which is, I would say, about 200 metres away from the Negresco. And so if you imagine that's the centre, and then, tons of people on either side of that going as far as the eye could see. So, it wasn't a small event, it was a major event. We didn't even know. The fireworks were supposed to be cancelled anyway because of the high winds, and I think they went ahead because the weather improved last minute. But no, the atmosphere was incredible. Everybody having a great time, no trouble, no incidents. It was just a fantastic atmosphere.
And underlining the tragedy that has befallen Nice, and of course we're seeing 30 people killed. That's the latest we're getting. We've had it reported that there could be as many as 60 dead. James, in terms of what this leaves you with now, in terms of that feeling of dread, of course, that something like this has happened, but of course you've got to now work out where Nice goes from here, and obviously when you return to those areas, that comes back to you. How does Nice begin to deal with this? This is one of the questions, of course. Maybe it's too early to say that.
Well, I'm half French myself, and I think France just needs to pick itself up somehow and just stay strong. There's no giving in to these people on any level. The negative effect, obviously, is that we're going to have increased security. We're going to have police on every corner, where they can. But it's going to be a different environment, but there'll be no giving in. I'm sure of it. This kind of transcends party political lines in France. So I think there'll be unity on that front. And as for Nice, it's a fantastic city, friendly people, and it will pick itself up from this, I'm sure.
It is reassuring and heartwarming to hear your positivity in this situation, James, which I'm sure for everybody concerned is an absolute nightmare. François Hollande is lifting the state of emergency, he says, on the 26th of July, James. It sounds from what you're saying that you feel that this could have happened with or without the state of emergency.
Yeah, it's just impossible. If you think about the 14th of July, every single village even has a fireworks display. So, every town, every city. So you can't control everything. I'm still confused as to how the lorry got to that part of the festival, because I was under the impression that the road was closed. But, I'm sure that will be clarified at a later stage. But, answering your question, you can't do everything, so you do have to stay vigilant. But you can't change your life either. I'm not going to change mine following this. I'm still going to, continue my holiday around here. If I can go back to Nice, I will. I'm not going to give in on that front. And and despite how difficult it is for the police to control such events, I just think we need to, as I said, just need to pick ourselves up and carry on.
James Nash, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your thoughts in what is a really difficult time. And we appreciate your time speaking to us. James Nash there speaking to us from Nice. James was at the event earlier this evening, which was brought to an end by a lorry. And as James was saying, confused as to how the lorry managed to get to the place where it was able to plough into a crowd of people. And as our eyewitness was saying, this was a packed crowd on the Promenade des Anglais in Nice. They were there for the Bastille Day fireworks. And as we heard, an atmosphere of celebration, an atmosphere of happiness, people coming together for a night out. But there is a large number of people who went out to enjoy the French national holiday, July the 14th, Bastille Day. There's a large number who went out who will not be going home tonight. 30 people, we are told, are killed. We're hearing from other sources that it could be as high as 60, the death toll in this incident. So there is confusion on that number for the moment, though the police in the area are very much coming up to speed with that one, and they will obviously provide clearer data as they get that confirmed. Many injured, of course, and they've been taken to places to be cared for. François Hollande, we are told, is on his way back to Paris to convene a crisis cell at Place Beauvau to look at what happens next. Well, earlier, of course, François Hollande made several declarations during his Bastille Day speech. One of them was that the state of emergency will be lifted on July the 26th. He also said, though, that the terror threat remains ever present.
During his annual TV interview, the French president was mindful of one of the major crises currently facing not just France, but Europe as a whole.
If Europe's paralysed because the United Kingdom doesn't file its request to negotiate, it must be made clear. The UK can't have outside what it had inside. It's over. When you're no longer there, you no longer have the same advantages.
François Hollande also mentioned that Brexit's uncertainty meant he was striving to contain any knock-on effects on the French economy. Elsewhere, it seems the nation's long-lasting anti-terror measures may finally be coming to an end too on July 26th.
We can't prolong the state of emergency without end. There'd be no sense in it. We would no longer be a republic with laws that could be applied in any circumstance. Is the threat still there? Yes, and it's the same because we have the same adversary.
That was a reference to the Islamic State group, something Hollande also spoke of tackling in territory it seized by sending French military advisors to Iraq once local forces are ready to retake the city of Mosul. At home, in the wake of 4 months of protest over deeply unpopular labour reforms, the president admitted he could have done better, but wasn't backing down.
Perhaps it was badly presented to begin with, but I think it's going to be good for the country, and it conforms to my values.
As widely expected, Hollande also had harsh words for his economy minister, Emmanuel Macron, who hasn't exactly been discreet with his presidential ambitions in recent days.
There are rules in government, and the first one is of solidarity. Respecting these rules means staying in government. Not respecting them means not staying.
A somewhat more amusing moment too, at least for interviewers, who followed up on the €10,000 a month salary of the presidential hairdresser, which has made waves in recent days.
There were external services before. I wanted it handled in-house. The presidential house budget's decreased. Staff have been cut. My own salary's gone down by 30%. And you're coming after me for this.
Hollande's always put some effort into his image, being elected as the Mr. Normal candidate on a platform of defending the poor. However, given his plunging popularity, he's said little over whether or not he'll run again next year.
Let's just give you an update on the situation in Nice. We are told 30 people have lost their lives. We're also told it could be as high as 60, the death toll in this incident, which happened at the end of Bastille Day fireworks on the Promenade des Anglais. A truck, a lorry, managing to get to the scene and drive into the crowd. We are told also the driver got out of the vehicle and started shooting at people. The driver has been killed by the police. You can see on that image there, the lorry has bullet holes in its windshield, where obviously it was fired on by the police. The situation is being treated as an attack. The word terror has not been put before that word, so the situation at present, we're not sure quite who is responsible, who's behind this, but we know that François Hollande is heading back to Paris to convene a special meeting of his emergency crisis team in order to assess what France does next. And the news coming in from Nice is that at least 60 people, this coming from the prosecutor of Nice, at least 60 people now killed in this incident. The situation then is a Bastille Day celebration turned into a living nightmare. People fleeing the scene, ordered to stay indoors, to get indoors. People are opening their homes to people to shelter there while this emergency is ongoing. And the situation very much one of tension and fear in Nice. We've heard from an eyewitness about the situation, and he is unabashed and he is unafraid, and he will continue, he says, to live in Nice and to carry on, because he says these people, whoever they are, because we don't know yet, these people must not win. Just a reminder, François Hollande earlier today announced that the state of emergency in France will be lifted on July the 26th. And then comes this attack in Nice, which is almost in a way mocking the fact that François Hollande has decided to lift the state of emergency, it might seem. But we don't know as yet who is responsible for this. There has been no claim of this attack as yet. So 60 people have lost their lives this evening. 60 people lost their lives, 60 people who went out to celebrate the French national holiday, the 14th of July, Bastille Day, commemorating the revolution here in France, and the annual holiday, of course, which is a big party all over the country. 60 people went out to enjoy that, and 60 people will not be going home tonight. The scale of the tragedy that has unfolded tonight in Nice.